Romans 8 through 11 explains why we struggle, why we feel torn in between two worlds, and why God's plan is bigger than anything we ever could imagine, y'all. Romans 8 begins by showing us something powerful, and that's the Mosaic Law. That's the Old Testament, the Ten Commandments. You see, they could define sin, expose sin, prohibit it, but it could never eliminate the sin. That law told us what was wrong, but it couldn't give us the strength to change. So God gave us something greater, and that's the law of the spirit of life. It's a new way for us to live, a power that the flesh could never produce within itself. Paul says to be carnally minded is death. Carnal means when we allow emotions, impulses, and selfish desires to control us in the flesh. Carnal is choosing what feels good over what is good. You see, but he also says to be spiritually minded is life and peace. Peace doesn't live in the flesh, peace lives in the spirit. Then Paul says the carnal mind is enmity against God, meaning hostile, resistant, incompatible. And if we live in the flesh, y'all, we cannot please God. But there is hope. If we mortify, basically put to death the deeds of the body, we shall live. God isn't calling us to manage sin. He's calling us to kill it, to stop feeding what destroys us. Then Paul speaks about adoption, y'all. Adoption, not through the system or not getting somebody else through an agency. We have received the spirit of adoption where we cry, Abba, meaning Father. As long as we cling to our own desires, we stay distant, y'all. But when we respond to the Spirit, we pulled into an intimate father and child relationship with God. Paul says creation itself is suffering, groaning, waiting for restoration. We don't live in the paradise that God intended for us. We don't, because the curse after Adam, Eve, and the serpent fell, yeah, after they fall, it broke creation. But God, he will restore it, y'all. Hello. He says we should become more Christ-like step by step. And those God justified, he also glorified, meaning we are marked for victory. Then comes the question that strengthens the soul. If God be for us, who can be against us? Hello. And he reminds us we are more than conquerors. And nothing, y'all, no death, no life, no angels, no demons, no height, no depth, nothing in creation can separate us from God's love. It can't. Romans 9 through 11 shifts to Israel to the Gentiles. Paul says Israel shouldn't see the Gentiles as a threat. They shouldn't, but they did. And the Gentiles shouldn't get arrogant because God's mind is unsearchable. His plan is bigger than anything we could ever see, anything we ever try to figure out, anything we ever try to fathom. He explains that Israel's rejection of Christ opened the door for salvation to the Gentiles. Not by accident, but because God is a sovereign God. He is, y'all. Israel's stumble wasn't the end. It was the doorway for grace to reach us today. And this is exactly how life works for all of us. Some things we thought were setbacks were really setups. Some things that hurt us positions us. Some doors closed. Hello? So better ones could open. All we see is the ones that close. We don't see the one that would open. God uses disappointment, betrayal, confusion, even rebellion to accomplish his purpose. That's why Paul warns the Gentiles. Don't get proud. Don't brag. Don't forget, we were grafted and by his mercy. If God didn't spare the natural branches, we must stay humble. We got to, y'all. Romans 8:11 don't just teach doctrine, y'all. It explains real life. They show us why our flesh pulls one way while the spirit pulls another. It explains why life feels heavy, why suffering stretches us, why hope grows out of hardship. These chapters show that even when life doesn't make sense, God is still sovereign, intentional, and working all things together for our good. And when Paul says nothing can separate us from the love of God, he talking about real storms, y'all. Real storms, real heartbreaks, real losses, real nights where we cry and ask God why. That's the storm I'm talking about. Romans 8 through 11 reminds us that we aren't walking blindly. We walking through a story God already wrote, a plan he already secured, and a victory he already promised. Our bills, our heartbreaks, our family issues, our mistakes, our valleys, our waiting seasons, none of them cancels God's hand in our life. It does not. It does not. We might be shaken, but nothing can separate us, y'all. It can't. We don't just survive life, we overcome it. Not because we strong, but because God never lets go.